This is episode 8, I think, of Impostor Syndrome. The episodes got messed up. This is Tyler Pong.
Hey, thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being on.
Yeah.
Could you just give people a little background on yourself?
Yeah, for sure. My name is Tyler Pong. I'm an actor, writer, filmmaker. I'm originally from Ottawa, Canada, and I live in Los Angeles by way of New York. I lived in New York for 4 years and made my way out to LA, and I'm the owner of Kill the Pig Productions. And that's pretty much the short story of Tyler Pong.
Okay. So do you do, I assume you own a production company, so are you like directing? What exactly do you do in there?
Yeah, I would love to do more directing, actually. I haven't done too much directing. The directing that I have done is the most recent thing that I did was the casting place, and I think that's my only official directing credit. Other than that, like, I do a lot of videography and I'm more behind the camera whenever I'm working technically. But as far as directing, the most recent one was Casting Place, which I made for the Asian American Film Lab 72-hour film shootout. And it was a fun experience. I got to use a green screen, which you can see my setup behind me. We set up green screen and we had me floating through space like in the movie Get Out, if you've ever seen it, when he's floating through the what's it called?
Oh, I forget what they call it in that.
Yeah,
the Netherworld.
Sunken Place. The Sunken Place.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, which is why we called it the Casting Place, because it was a parody of Get Out, but it was an actor being forced to take on a stereotypical role that he didn't want to take on, similar to how in Get Out, in the Sunken Place, he's forced to take on a role that he doesn't want to take in life. So we had a lot of fun making that one.
What was the theme this year? Or was it this year or is it last year?
Yeah, it was just this past year. The theme was No More. That was the theme.
Okay.
No More. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very vague.
You can just kind of work anything into it. But it was, I mean, that's kind of the fun part of it. They give you a lot of flexibility with the theme and everything.
Are you doing it this year?
Yeah, I've signed up. We'll see if the dates work out, because last year I wasn't even sure I was going to do it. I was in between two jobs. I was working in South Dakota the week before, and then the shootout started while I was in South Dakota. So I wrote the script, flew back on like the second day of the shootout, and then shot it on the third day of the shootout and edited it overnight. And then I think right after we submitted it, I was off to another job in Hawaii. So it was really bookended by 2 travel jobs that I had. So it was really tight, and I wasn't sure if I was going to make it, but I was able to do it. So who knows how it's going to work out this year, if I'm going to be able to fit it in. But hopefully I will. We'll see.
That's crazy, because I mean it's stressful enough doing 72-hour as it is, but doing it in between jobs like that in different states, that's another thing entirely.
I know. It was definitely worth it. And I think that's even the more fulfilling part of it, is that like it's so rushed. Either way, it's so rushed. So even if it's in between 2 jobs, it's still gonna feel that way. But I wrote it in a way where I could just film it in a single location and shoot it out in one day, and it was simple enough to execute. So I think that was also what made it, what made it fit into the schedule.
So how'd you do the floating effects? Did you just do wire work, or did you just kind of have them laying down?
No, I was just kind of balancing on top of an apple box that I also covered in green screen paper. So that's pretty much it. Yeah, I had the green screen, then I had the apple box covered in green screen paper, and then I just like planked on top of it.
Huh.
So yeah, yeah, it was easy. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Tricks of the trade.
Yeah, yeah. And then, just like doing a lot of nice color correction and like visual effects with the particles floating through the air, like in and around me and stuff. So it wasn't too hard to. It was our first green screen attempt in my studio, and it was pretty successful. So I'm happy with how it turned out.
That's pretty crazy that you did your first green screen attempt for a 72-hour shootout.
Yeah, yeah.
That's putting way too much pressure on yourself.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about it when I was doing when I was in South Dakota, and when we flew back, I think the first thing I did the next morning was go buy the green screen paper. So like it was really a Hail Mary, but it worked out fine because I know that I can do it on my with my editing software. I've done green screen. I just haven't shot green screen.
Okay.
I've edited that side of green screen. I just haven't shot it myself. So that was the first time we actually did both ends of it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I should really do it again because as terrifying as it is like you feel like such a sense of relief when you're done with those 72-hour shootouts.
Yeah,
I
for sure.
only ever did 2.
Yeah, which years did you do?
I did the one with Patrick, which was Underneath the Gray. And then I did one with this guy, Jeremy C. Hansen, who hopefully I'll have on here soon. That one was called The System. So that
Okay.
was 2014 and 2016.
Gotcha. I remember Underneath the Gray. That was, I think the theme of the year was the color of my hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That was
Yeah.
2010.
And I don't know what the theme for 2016 was, because from what I was told, the movie didn't even really follow the theme. I'm
Oh,
not sure.
I mean, sometimes I feel like people don't necessarily follow the theme. Like they have an idea already going into it, and then like the theme just kind of fits around it. But I don't know. I always try to follow the theme as best I can. But as I said, as we just discussed, they're always so vague that you can kind of fit it. Other like film races will sometimes say you need to include a character with a certain name, you need to include a certain prop, or you need to do something really specific to like really make it obvious that you made it for that competition. But having the vague kind of theme makes it so you can really be flexible with the story, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, the one I did with Patrick, he had like basically a story already by the time they got the theme. Like, I
Yeah.
wrote the music for that 2 weeks in advance.
Oh, really?
It wasn't even a script. He just kind of gave me a vague idea of what he was doing, and then
And then you just kind of created like some themes for it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I always just like Google royalty-free music.
Yeah.
I know, but like when it's just like me and my fiance, it's like so hard to well, one, you don't want to have too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
So, because that makes it more difficult. Like I've found that out through the years where if you just have a lot of people, there's a lot of ideas going around, and you spend more time brainstorming and compromising and arguing than you do actually making the product. And then the product has so many elements in it that are contradicting that it would have been easier if you just had one sole creative kind of herding the whole project, as opposed to like all these people with different ideas. But
Yeah, that makes
it works. I think you can work it either way, though. You just need a strong leader.
yeah. So I assume in that one you were the one acting.
Wait, what was that?
The green screen one were you the one acting in it?
Yeah. It was me balancing on the Apple box.
Yeah. I have to see that. I'm curious to see how that came out.
Yeah, yeah, we got what is it? Second runner up, and my fiance got best actress.
All right.
Yeah, so it worked out pretty well for us this year. So we'll see. We'll see if we get to compete this coming year.
So that's probably in a couple months, right? In
Yeah,
June?
that's June. In June coming up. Yeah, so we'll see.
Well, let me know if you want. I'll gladly do the music. I could probably use the pressure again.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome. It's good to know that you're down to do that.
Yeah, it's scary, but the last time I did it, I actually traveled from New Jersey to Brooklyn, and was doing it while the guy was editing it.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
What,
that
what
was.
kind of what kind of instruments did you use for that? Did you like have a whole like soundscape, or did you just make it like very simple acoustic?
That one. It was kind of a horror thing.
Mm,
So, but it cut between like horror and like happy. So like the happy part was just like a little piano ditty. Um, and the horror was I had like double basses just kind of holding a note out,
cool.
and then I would use this thing called a water phone. Uh,
That is.
yeah, most people don't. It's like yeah, well, I was using a sample of it. I don't have the real thing, but it's like it's kind of like a dish on the bottom, and and then it's got like a handle coming up from it, and it's filled with water. And then on the outside, there are like spokes all over it in different sizes.
Yeah.
And what you do if you had the actual water phone is you'd play it with like a violin bow on the spokes.
Yeah.
And it's like a very signature horror sound.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, it's like got
That
this
was
like
the one in 2016.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. So I guess we'll get right into the subject matter of the podcast, which is what's your biggest insecurity in the business?
I mean, I know that you talk about a lot about how what is it, the imposter complex or something?
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah, yeah, and I find that very interesting because that's what a lot of people are kind of suffer from, like the idea that you're not good enough. And I think that's a huge fear for like a creative. Like if we're talking like creatively, what's my biggest fear is that what I'm making isn't going to be good enough. We in acting class, we always talk about, and our mantra is always about how you are good enough in what you bring. Don't try to bring something inauthentic to the character. You know, don't try to be a character that you're not. Even if you don't feel like you fit the character that you're going in for, let's say you're going in for an audition, you'll serve yourself much better by going in and auditioning as your true authentic self than you would if you're trying to be somebody else. Because even if you don't book that role and they're like, oh, he's not exactly the character we're looking for, you still arguably did a good job as yourself because you're bringing your true authentic self, and they'll see that and they'll hopefully bring you in for a role that is actually more suited for you. So I mean, I kind of deviated from what my biggest fear is to how I kind of combat that. But yeah, I think just not being good enough is one of the big fears of creatives, and one that I have for sure.
Yeah. It's definitely something you just with time you kind of get past it though. It gets easier and easier.
Yeah, I think so. I think well, I mean that is true But I also feel the opposite is true, where I had a lot more confidence when I didn't know anything, and like when I just started out, and now like as I know more about the industry and start figuring out what there is to explore, I find out what there is that I don't actually know. So like it could work the opposite way, where you become less confident over time just because you become more aware of all the pitfalls.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
That,
yeah, Socratic kind of a look at life.
Yeah. What was I about to say? Damn it. This is not a steel trap. Yeah, I could see that. Like, I know with composing, like, I think back to what my resources were back then. I was way overconfident in my resources, like in my abilities back when I started. But it was probably a good thing, because I probably wouldn't have done as well if I had doubted myself more.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, yeah, you don't want to be too doubtful of yourself. I mean, that's why we're always trying to in acting class, trying to motivate ourselves and not be so negative about our failures, but use our failures as learning opportunities. And I think a lot of people in life try to use or say that they're using their failures as ways to grow, you know.
Or at least you hope you are.
Yeah.
Sometimes you think you've learned the lesson, and then you make the same mistake again. You're like, "Fuck, I didn't actually learn the lesson."
Yeah, no, I know. But yeah, hopefully, at least you fail a different way, and you maybe learn that it's because of multiple things or whatever. I mean, hopefully, you're always just learning from your failures and not repeating the same stuff over and over again, because that would suck.
I'm guilty of that, of definitely repeating the same mistakes over and over again.
Yeah.
I'm working on it, but
yeah. Yeah, I guess that's the difference between like physical mistakes and like emotional mistakes. Emotional mistakes are super easy to repeat over and over again just because like they're not as quantifiable, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas like I could say, okay, I'm not going to walk down First Avenue again because there's construction. And you don't do that. That's a physical thing that you can change and that's easy to do. But like emotionally, if one of the things that has been like a block for you is emotional, like, oh, I'm not going to get angry at this one thing. It's hard to be able to control that at all. Even if you're like, you put on a positive face, you still have those certain feelings. So it's hard to, I guess there's that difference between like the physical and the emotional mistakes that people make.
No, you're 100% right, especially if you have like, if you're somebody that has maybe some trauma from your younger years, like it's not that easy to get past like whatever that trauma might be.
Sure.
Like, you can't just like automatically just like, oh, I know this is not the right behavior, I'm just gonna fix it.
Yeah.
It's just not that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that's something that I think everybody's working on too.
Yeah.
As far as like emotionally growing with your mistakes.
Yeah, that's why I started this, was because like I feel like more people need outlets for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's why I really want to talk about this kind of stuff on here, because like it'd be easier to do a podcast that's just about the business itself.
Yeah.
Whereas I wanted to get kind of deeper into like the nitty gritty emotional stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I'm like trying to rack my brain for like failures right now to share with you.
Oh, you've never had any.
Yeah, no, I've had failures. They're just locked away at the back of my brain. So if I think of them, I'll bring them up. But yeah, I mean, it's just like I feel like maybe if you look back at your career, you can find failure in everything you do. You know what I mean? So, like, if I think of my last film, or like the film before that, or the film before that, I'll be like, oh, well, the writing could have been better on that one, and I'll know that for next time. Or maybe the one before that, oh, the lighting could have been better on that. So it's like each project, you're kind of gaining more skills and more perspective into yourself. I feel like that's like what the 72-hour shootout has also done for me, is each year, like, the quality of the film I do keeps getting better just because I learn new elements that need to kind of be incorporated. So that's the good part about, like, forcing yourself to create content, is that you're forcing yourself to take the plunge, and there will ultimately be failure just because, like, nothing goes the way you necessarily want it to go.
Yeah, the 72-hour definitely it forces you to not worry about those insecurities. It's just like, oh, I have to get this done by this time.
Yeah,
I don't have the time to think about how I'll fail.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, do.
Yeah, and if you do, just like fix it.
Well, also, I think there's kind of a lenience in that, like, everybody knows it's 72 hours, so like nobody expects it to be Oscar worthy.
Yeah. That is the part that kind of sucks about it. It's like, if you do make a project that's really good for that format, it doesn't necessarily have a place to live outside of the competition. Like, I've tried, like, some of my films actually have had festival screenings and stuff and have done successfully, but most of them, you either feel that it's like, oh, it looks kind of low budget, and then you find out that it was made in 72 hours, and it's like, oh, okay, well, it's good for 72 hours. But like, having a life outside of the competition hasn't proven all too successful. So, I mean, it's also good to push yourself to create content that's not within those limitations.
Yeah, have you thought about trying to do, like, on your own, like, outside of the competition? Like,
oh yeah, I've actually made I produced 3 films as like executive producer. 2 of them I starred in. 1 of them I wrote, and I made those under Kill the Pig Productions. So we have made longer form, bigger budget films through my production company over the past few years. But those take more time to cultivate, to do pre-production, obviously, but to like get all the elements right, it takes a lot more time. But they're much more fulfilling.
Yeah. Well, I meant, like, had you tried to do, like, the 72-hour format outside of it?
Oh.
Like, impose that limitation on you.
For fun?
just for like an exercise.
Yeah, no, I haven't. I mean, the 72-hour shootout is just pretty much the exercise itself. Anytime I'll make a film outside of that, it'll be, over a longer period of time for like pre-production and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, you'd have to be really masochistic to do that.
Yeah, do that.
You never know. It might be a good exercise.
Yeah. No, my first one that I ever did was a 24-hour film race. Where
I heard about that one.
Yeah, it was. They do it in every major city, I think. It's called film racing, and like their company is called Film Racing. So they do competitions in. There was one in New York, but I missed that one, so I did the one in Brooklyn. So obviously they're like all over the place, and it was in 2010, so it was years ago. And I was actually just watching it the other day, and it's totally embarrassing, but but was the first time I was ever behind the camera. I used like this little flip cam, like when they used to sell those before people had video phones. Yeah. They had like flip cams, and it was I think it was like $68, so like $70 for the flip cam, and it was just something that me and my actor friends who had no technical experience were just doing for the sake of, just for fun, but also to like, for me, it turned into something that was, it opened up the gateway to producing your own content, and it made it within reach, So yeah, despite like going back and looking at it and seeing how low budget and amateur it is, it's still kind of encouraging that was the first step towards making my production company.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of a good exercise to go back and look at your old stuff and see how you've improved. Like, yeah, I'll do that every now and then, because like I listen to like when I started recording for the first time. Oh my God, it's terrible.
Yeah,
it was awful. But now it's like I can record like that so easily. Just 10 years of practice.
Yeah, only 10 years.
Yeah, but like it helps you appreciate how far you've come.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and technology has become a lot more accessible.
Oh my God, it's like even in that 10 years, the leaps and bounds we've made in technology is unbelievable.
Yeah, people can make a movie on their cell phone now. Very easily.
I mean, you've seen the guitar covers I do. I do all those on the phone.
Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. I just posted aerials.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a high school band, and we covered that song.
Oh, what'd you play?
I didn't play anything. I was vocals.
Oh, okay. Well, that's an instrument.
Yeah. I played the vocals.
I'd be interested to hear your Serge Tankian imitation.
Oh my God, no! I would actually scream. All our song was like screaming. There wasn't a lot of like lyrical like singing. So we adapted the song to be screaming.
And you did that song, Aerials?
Yeah.
Interesting, because that's a very chill song.
Yeah. We did it.
I mean, you didn't say if it was good or not, but
no, I didn't. But it was high school. I mean, like some of the songs, I look back and I'm like, oh, they're pretty good. Some of them I don't want to hear ever again. I like. Yeah, I'll show like whenever people ask to like hear it, I'll show them like the last part of one specific song where like everybody was in harmony together and it like worked out. But other than that, I won't show people any of the other music.
Yeah, thankfully I don't have a whole lot of records of what I did back then. In high school. Actually, there's nothing from high school from me that anybody could see, so it's good on me. I was shocked. I had no idea that you were such a big metalhead. Like, because I remember you commented on the Dimmu Borgir video. I was like, oh shit, he's a Dimmu Borgir fan. That's
I do love metal. I have my Marilyn Manson shirt on right now.
Yeah.
I dabble. Let's say I dabble more in metal than I'm like a huge fan, but I do enjoy it.
The fact that you know Dimmu Borgir though, that's a little more than dabbling, because they're like, if you're not a metalhead, that's not a band you really know. They're huge. They're huge for what they do.
Yeah.
But outside of metal.
Absolutely. I don't know. I mean, it was totally from my high school days too that I got into metal, and like those people that I hung around with got me into metal music. So I think the metal that I listen to is all of that era of mid 2000s.
That's my favorite era, more or less.
Yeah.
Or like more like the 90s, but
Yeah. And more like mid 2000s and like previous, because like you have like a rich history to pull from, and then you have like your current music whenever you're like listening to shit. But that's pretty much like where a lot of my metal my metal influence comes from.
Mm. Yeah. You know what's funny though? Speaking of the Dimmu Borgir song, I discovered recently. You remember Hellboy? Because
Yeah.
they had the new movie coming out. I saw the old trailer for the
Uh,
first Hellboy. They had them in that as the music for that trailer.
oh, really?
I
That's
didn't realize that. I knew that was a big record, but I didn't think it was big enough to get in a movie trailer back then.
for the. Are you talking about for like the
The Ron,
original
the Ron
uh,
Perlman one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to go back and look at that.
I was shocked. I was watching the trailer. I'm like, this is Dimmu Borgir. I
Yeah.
didn't even know.
So funny. It's so funny how many like metal influences make it into movies. Like in Triple X, Rammstein is playing.
Yeah.
Or the band playing in Triple X.
Yeah, they did Friar Fry.
Yeah, yeah. It's a great song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were pretty big at that point, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Did you see the new one? The new Triple X?
No, I haven't really watched them from that point on.
Yeah, I didn't either.
It's
But
the Ice Cube version because there was
I,
too.
oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I didn't watch that either, but
yeah, no.
I'm kind of curious because it looks so stupid. It's got to be fun. But
Right. I mean, who doesn't? I'm a fan of stupid action movies, of stupid movies in general. Like I'm a huge advocate of The Room. If you've
oh
ever
yeah,
seen-
well, how could you not be?
yeah, yeah. It's so endearing.
Yeah, yeah. Even though there's one part that makes me so uncomfortable though, when the kid is coming up into their room as they're about to fool around.
Yeah. Oh, right at the beginning.
Yeah, I was like, ooh, that's. I like the weirdness of this movie, but that's a little.
crowd. Yeah, no, but there's like something endearing about his love for film, and like everything is so like referential to his film language. Like there's references to Citizen Kane. There's references to The Talented Mr. Ripley, to Tennessee Williams. I mean, they're very at certain times like on the nose, and it's like it obviously failed and it was a bad movie, but just like that, it's endearing how much passion he put into that project,
Yeah.
and then how miserably it failed.
I don't know if you'd call it a failure because if you look at how popular it is now.
At this point, it has cult status, but
I mean, they tour.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's true. I mean, it's an anomaly. Like you don't want to have that reputation. You would prefer to have like a reputation for making Oscar-winning content, but
Yeah.
it inspired Oscar-winning content.
Yeah. Yeah. What did that movie win? The
Disaster Artist.
Yeah.
Disaster Artist, I think, won adaptation of best adapted screenplay,
Mm-hmm.
I believe. So it would have been adapted from the novel, which is really if you've ever read it.
I haven't read it, but the movie was great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would definitely recommend reading the book too, just because it like has so much more in-depth analysis of that whole scenario. But the movie did a really good job at adapting it, and was very, very, very spot on to the events that they described in the book, and also just the overall tone of the book.
It was actually pretty sad though. Like there were certain parts that I was like, "Wow, I'm actually tearing up a little bit here."
Yeah.
But they were fighting.
Yeah. Yeah, because they have like a love-hate relationship that's like, I don't know, and there's a lot of like, I feel like there's a lot of resentment in the novel from Greg Sestero of Tommy Wiseau, but he's so far, he's so deep in the relationship that he doesn't want to give up on his friend, even though his friend is sabotaging him to a certain degree. So it is very bittersweet. I think there's like a lot. It's like it's a it's a cautionary tale of friendships, friendships and business.
That is a scary thing.
Yeah,
especially in our business.
yeah. When like a lot of, but the business is based on a lot of like friendships and knowing the people that you're working with, because like really what I've learned too from doing movies is you have to trust the people you bring on board, because like if you don't know them super well and you're taking a leap of faith on them because you see a certain part of them that you do like, but you're not too sure about them as like a 100% total package, like chances are if you don't know like every side of them, you're going to find it out in production, and like it could be good, but you know, production is a pressure cooker for stress. So a lot of the times you have to be able to deal with people on their worst day and maintain that friendship and maintain that working ability, and go through the other end of the tunnel. But like if you're not aware of what you're going in, of that dark side of that person that you're collaborating with, then it can be super stressful and super it can be a huge detriment to the whole production.
Have you ever had to cut ties with somebody because it was just so bad, like in the production?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that like you just learn not to work with them again, and like over time things might mend, they might not, but you just learn that like, okay, I'm not going to work with this person again, and I just have to go back and fix everything that, you know, they did. But you just like kind of move forward, I think. And whether it's with them or without them, it doesn't matter. You have your story in mind, and you have to serve the story.
That could be tough though, especially if you're very tied in with that other person.
Yeah.
Especially on the project.
Yeah, for sure. I think yeah, I mean, there's always tact with cutting ties with somebody. Like I can't think of like I can't think of like any scenario where there's been a fight or anything. It's just a matter of like, okay, this person, I don't want to work with them, and so I won't. And like it's just moving forward that way. You know, I try not to burn bridges. I mean, burning bridges is not a good habit.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you just have to, but
yeah,
it's scary to do.
Yeah. No, you can effectively distance yourself from somebody without burning a bridge. And I feel like that's a healthier thing to do.
Yeah, that's mostly what I've done. Like, there's some people, like, it just wasn't a good experience. So, like, I never burned the bridge, but it's just kind of, I haven't talked to them in years.
Yeah. And that's probably the healthier way to deal with it. Because if you look back after time, like, you're probably thankful that you didn't burn a bridge, because, like, they are probably, the person in question is probably in a place where they're aware of what they did, and they don't need somebody, chastising them for it. They, I'm sure, died 1,000 deaths before being confronted with it, as the saying goes.
And hopefully they actually learned from it.
Yeah. That's the whole thing, learning from your failure.
It comes back full circle.
Yeah.
Did you have a hard time developing that skill of actually recognizing your failures? Because I know I did.
No, I think I'm fairly critical of myself. So I see failure in like everything I do.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, I should clarify, like, I am too. Like, I'm overly critical about everything.
Yeah.
But I remember there was definitely a time when I had like way too high of an ego. Like, it was a weird thing where like I was super self-critical, but I was also like super egotistical on top of it. It was.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened. It just did. I think I've for the most part gotten over it, but.
Yeah. I mean, no, that is true. There is a balance between the ego and criticism. But that's like the thing for most artist types, most people that are putting themselves out there, because you have to have that confidence, which can turn into ego. But you're also at the same time putting yourself out there. So you're opening yourself up to criticism, which is super scary these days, especially these days with the internet. Of criticism.
Well, also, if you say one little thing that's just not quite right, like, even if it's like, most of the time people just don't have the right context for what you're trying to say, and then you say it on social media, and then you're just, you're done.
Yeah. That's why you have to, like, really learn to articulate your thought.
Yeah.
To really, like, know what you're talking about. And if you don't, then don't say it.
Yeah. Yeah, I heavily curate what I do on social media because I don't feel like being a James Gunn situation.
No.
I mean, thankfully. What?
Oh wait, no, I know which one you're talking about. The old tweets that like resurfaced from like 2012 or something, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, all is forgiven with him. He got hired back for Guardians of the Galaxy 3, so.
Yeah, I was so happy that happened.
Yeah. So it worked out for him eventually, but they did fire him, and he was then supposed to do Suicide Squad, or is he still doing Suicide Squad as well?
I think he is.
Okay, so he's doing Suicide Squad 2, and then going back to Guardians. Interesting.
I'm curious to see what he does with that movie because that first one was a train wreck.
Yeah, it was a little disappointing given the content and given the hype around it too. There's a lot of hype, and I think really one of the only redeemable aspects of that movie was Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, which is why like she's going to be pretty much the focus. She has her own Birds of Prey style movie coming out too, right?
I haven't been keeping up with it lately, but I mean, DC announces so many movies, and then they change their mind immediately after.
Yeah, and they have that streaming channel with all their TV shows. Like I am so on the outside of what's going on the DC streaming channel, just because like there's too many shows to watch in life. I don't need to buy another streaming platform.
Yeah.
It's just too much that I already have access to. I don't need to add on top of it.
It's gonna get real crazy once the Disney one comes out.
Yeah, because they have, I think, 4 Marvel shows lined up that are all like spin-offs of like, the Avengers Like a lot of the stuff that's happened in the most recent Avengers movie is going to continue in the Marvel TV universe. Not to spoil the end game for anybody.
Yeah, we got to be careful. I mean, this is going to come out in 2 weeks, so hopefully most people will have seen it by then. But yeah, we don't want to get too into that. Although, man, I felt so many feelings walking out of that movie.
Yeah,
it was like
me too.
It was unreal. I can't believe they pulled it off in the way that they did. Sorry, I'm gross right now.
No, but I mean, it was a great conclusion, and that's where I'm going to end talking about that.
Yeah. We can't say anything yet.
But yeah, no. As far as like the Marvel stream or the Disney streaming platform too, they're going to have the Star Wars show.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
Yeah,
I'm a massive Star Wars nerd, so.
Okay.
I'm super ready for the
Mandalorian. I do. I love Star Wars too. I'm disappointed that. Well. Maybe not disappointed. I'm there's like bittersweet feelings towards their take on the movie universe, where they were going to put out tons of movies, and then after the
Solo.
Yeah, after Solo, after it didn't do as well as they had hoped in the box office, they kind of axed a lot of their one-offs, which is disappointing because I wanted to see the Obi-Wan Kenobi spin-off, which there's so much fan art about it and so much like hype around seeing Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi again. And then instead of pushing that forward, they released the Solo one. And like, I don't know, like when they said it was going to happen, it's like, oh, that's cool. But that wasn't what the fans were asking for. I don't know.
I mean, I liked the Solo movie, but it didn't feel like Han Solo. It felt like a decent Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel like I was watching Han Solo.
Yeah. That's the hard thing about casting different actors in beloved characters. It's like if you're going to do a one-off in the Star Wars universe, then do something like Rogue One, where it's like you're not facing criticism for arguably bastardizing a beloved character. You're bringing in new characters to the franchise. But with Solo, I think he did a good job as like the character, but it's not Harrison Ford.
No. And the thing is, you're casting a younger version of him, but not that much younger than what he was in the original trilogy.
Yeah, he's supposed to be 10 years. It's 10 years before the original trilogy.
Yeah, and he was 35 when he did that movie.
Yeah.
So it was weird. And also the timing was bad. They shouldn't have released it when they did. If they'd released it in December, like they did with the other ones, it would have been fine.
Yeah. Yeah, they were just, I guess, trying to replicate the Marvel formula for releasing movies. Yeah,
it didn't work. But at least I am excited for the Benioff and Weiss one, though.
Oh, wait, which one?
Benioff and Weiss, the guys that do Game of Thrones, are doing their own trilogy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we don't know anything about it yet. But the theory is that it's going to be like either Old Republic or Beginning of the Jedi, which if that's what they do, I am so ready for that. I've been wanting that for years.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder how long down the pipeline that's going to be.
It should. Well, I mean, they're finishing up Game of Thrones right now as far as press and stuff. But hopefully in the next 2 or 3 years, they'll start.
So interesting, considering that they were pumping the brakes on all the one-offs. Now they're going to go straight into another trilogy.
Well, yeah, I mean they announced that before they pumped the brakes on the spinoffs, but they held that one tight. That one's still going.
Damn! Why not give us the Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan Kenobi movie. God damn it.
You know, that's an interesting one to do though, because I think the only way for that movie to work well is if it's like a gritty character piece that doesn't have a lot of action, which would be weird for the Star Wars brand. Like, because like, I mean, I suppose you could make it like he's going off and doing all these other adventures, but that wouldn't make sense.
Well, I mean, yeah, I think like you don't necessarily have to frame it that that's like what his life is at this point, where he's going from adventure to adventure, because obviously he has to be on Tatooine.
Yeah.
So obviously he has to be there, but it could just be like a one-off where it's like Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope, but but a different scenario of that when he's still younger and able to actually go out and do it himself, you know?
Yeah, me personally, I'd like it to be like just a movie where it's just like him, like 90% of the movie, just dealing with everything.
Yeah.
Like it'd just be like a really gritty, like just character piece. Like no lightsaber fighting, not a lot of force. Like, and if there is force, it's like personal stuff. It's not like him fighting off people. Like something very simple.
Yeah.
I know that's not what we're gonna get. They're gonna have to light up a lightsaber if they're gonna do it.
Oh yeah, for sure. Just hope that it's in the J.J. Abrams style and not the episode 1, 2, 3 style.
Yeah, I don't like the dancing style, because that's literally what it looks like is dancing.
Yeah, all the jumping around and stuff. It got to not only that, but just all the CGI in the original, or in the episode 1, 2, and 3. There's just like so much green screen. It was hard to like feel immersed in what was happening.
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I felt immersed in it because I just didn't notice that. But yeah, as an adult and somebody that works in the film industry, I notice it now.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah. Okay, so I guess we're getting towards the end. So, well, actually, companion to the first question that I asked, what is your biggest strength?
Adaptability, I would say, because I am an actor first and foremost. People always ask me, like, well, what do you prefer? Do you prefer being in front of the camera or behind the camera? And I'm first and foremost an actor. But I've learned how to write, how to make films, how to photograph, how to be a cinematographer, all in the goal of strengthening myself as an actor, strengthening my brand, strengthening my image, and being able to put myself out there. Because if you're not being cast in the roles that you want to be cast in, you need to make them yourself, and then show people what you're capable of, instead of having people wonder and trying to fit you into or put you in a corner that isn't you, you know? So I feel like adaptability would be one of my strengths.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most important strengths you can have in this industry, because, you know, especially as an actor, you're entirely dependent on somebody hiring you.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you have a dry spot where people aren't looking at you,
what
are you going to do? Just rest on your laurels? Like, I can make music whenever I want, but, like, if you're acting, you need somebody to be shooting you.
Yeah. Or you're just acting in front of the mirror, and who's that going to serve?
No one. It's just weird.
But like, I mean, a lot of actors in history that you wouldn't even think have done that. I mean, like one of the most famous instances of an actor kind of making their own opportunities would be Matt Damon and Ben Affleck with Good Will Hunting. That's one of the most iconic stories. But like even Vin Diesel made his own short film because he wasn't getting any roles, and then that got seen by somebody, and you know he got cast in features after that. And Yeah, there are a lot of examples of actors who Billy Bob Thornton. He did Sling Blade. Nobody knew who he was before Sling Blade.
And actually, a lot of times, actors for some reason wind up being very good directors, like Ben Affleck.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess you just develop an ear for it.
Yeah, and they're always like those are the movies that always have more character-driven, performance-driven elements as opposed to the technical side. Because like I think as a director, I don't know, you can always bring on people with technical prowess, but you can't necessarily get somebody with taste to tell you what to do. Like you're the person whose taste they're betting all the money on as the director. So I feel like, yeah, you're right. Actors make that transition well into directing because they have a certain taste for character development.
Yeah. You know, it's funny, like, though, like, a lot of musicians, too, make a really good transition into acting.
Yeah.
But never the opposite.
No,
the only one I can think of is Taylor Momsen. But
yeah.
other than that.
But she was really young when she started acting. So, like, yeah. No, you're right. I mean, nobody talks about Bruce Willis as a singer.
No.
Yeah. But Ewan McGregor is a great singer, though, in Moulin Rouge.
You know what? I've never watched Moulin Rouge.
Oh my God, you have to for just to hear him sing. He doesn't. I don't think he like actually sings in real life. I don't think he has any like albums or anything. I could be wrong, but he has a really impressive voice. I have to say.
You know what was impressive with that was Ryan Gosling in La La Land. Not so much his singing, but like he learned how to mime all of those piano parts.
Yeah.
And that I think is actually harder than learning to sing in that short amount of time.
Yeah.
Because it's not intuitive.
Yeah. No, you're right about that. The way he played the piano was pretty impressive in La La Land.
Yeah. Although there was parts where I was like, when I was watching it, I was like, because I know how it's played. I'm like, oh, it's not syncing up perfectly.
Yeah.
That's just because of me. I mean,
yeah. I'm sure musicians can suss that stuff out. Does it ever bother you in like whenever you see people like playing instruments? Because it happens all the time, and a lot of stuff I notice it too. And I'm like, if I notice it, then musicians everywhere are going to be like, that person isn't playing guitar or saxophone.
It drives me fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Because like it happens a lot with violin. Because violin you see in movies all the time, and they're like not moving their left hand. They're just like, and their bowing is always off. Like they're bowing at like a horrible angle or something.
Yeah.
Or you know the other one that I don't like. I love this movie, but Whiplash.
Yeah.
Everything in that was really well done. Miles Teller learned how to play the drums. It was great.
Yeah.
There's one thing that bothers me. There's a scene in it where he punches through a drum head.
Uh-huh.
You could not do that in real life, like without breaking your hand. It's plastic. It's like a rough plastic.
Yeah.
And like the way he punches through it, you could tell it was like it had to be like that thick paper. I forget construction paper.
Yeah.
Or something. Just the way it ripped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny. Yeah, that does bother me. That does bother me when you see people playing instruments and it's just like so fake.
Yeah. Or when the syncing is not right, like in the music video, that drives me nuts.
Yeah.
Like just the editor had no idea what they were doing.
Yeah. Or, you know, they just like had to do it for the service of the story.
Yeah. There's one where there's one music video that was just the whole thing was a train wreck. Yeah. But there's one particular shot where the editor was so bad, like he got the drummer counting in while there's a part playing. Like you could see him, he's like, and like, but there's music playing that wasn't accounting in the actual context. It was just.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess give people your links. Tell people where to find you.
Yeah. You can find me on social media, on Instagram and Twitter at Tyler Hampong. My website is tylerhampong.com, and my production company is killthepigproductions.com. And that's about it. That's where you can find my content.
All right, and I'll put that in the show notes. I'll see you. We'll have to do it again sometime.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on episode 8 or so.
We'll figure that out.
Yeah.
Thanks for being on.
Thank you. We'll see you later.
All right, take care. Bye.
Bye.
Stop.